The sea roared with fury as Lyra Ashford's ship, the Eclipse, approached the jagged shores of the Lost Island. For centuries, the Obsidian Citadel had been a myth whispered among sailors and treasure hunters, a towering black fortress shrouded in thunderous clouds and endless lightning strikes. Lyra, a seasoned explorer with a keen eye for lost relics, stood at the prow, her cloak billowing in the storm's unrelenting winds. Her crew, Marik Steelhaven, a stoic warrior with a scarred past, Sable Frost, a cunning thief known for her dark wit, and Kane Emberforge, a hot-headed but brilliant cartographer, were equally transfixed by the Citadel's foreboding silhouette against the stormy sky. They had come seeking riches, but as they neared the island, a heavy sense of dread settled over them, like the weight of ancient eyes watching their every move. The ship anchored near the treacherous rocks, and the group disembarked onto the black sands, their boots sinking into the obsidian grains that glistened like crushed glass. The path to the citadel was steep and twisted, lined with statues of forgotten kings and creatures whose forms defied logic, half man, half beast, each gaze frozen in eternal agony. Thunder rumbled above and lightning snaked across the sky, illuminating the citadel's towering spires. As they ascended, Lyra's heart pounded, not from fear, but from a strange pull, an invisible force that seemed to guide her steps toward the ancient stronghold. The closer they got, the more the citadel seemed alive, its walls whispering secrets of power, loss, and a terrible curse that had imprisoned its monstrous guardian for eons. They reached the citadel's grand entrance, a colossal gate made of black iron, intricately carved with runes that pulsed faintly with an eerie blue glow. Kane examined the symbols, his eyes narrowing as he deciphered the ancient language. "It's a warning," he murmured, running his fingers over the cold metal. "Only the worthy may pass, and the unworthy shall serve." Lyra glanced at Marik and Sable, sensing their unease. She pushed the gate with all her strength, and it creaked open with a deafening groan, revealing the citadel's shadowy interior. A chill swept over them as they stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and ancient magic. The walls were lined with tapestries depicting scenes of battles, betrayals, and the rise and fall of a once great civilization, now lost to time. As they ventured deeper into the citadel, the sound of their footsteps echoed, mingling with the distant growls and low haunting wails that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Sable's sharp eyes darted around, spotting traps laid discreetly within the dark corridors, pressure plates, hidden blades, and pits that dropped into unknown depths. "This place is a death trap," she whispered, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. Marik unsheathed his sword, his grip tightening as he moved ahead, ever the protector of the group. Lyra could feel the citadel testing them, as if it were more than just stone and shadow, but a sentient force measuring their worth. Each room they passed through told a story of power and sacrifice, leading them inevitably toward the heart of the fortress, and the monstrous guardian bound within. The group finally reached a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness, and its walls lined with ancient relics that shimmered faintly in the gloom. At the center stood a massive stone throne, and upon it, the guardian, an imposing bestial figure bound in chains of glowing runes. Its eyes burned with a malevolent light, and its presence filled the room with a palpable sense of danger. Lyra stepped forward, her heart racing as the creature's gaze locked onto hers. It did not attack, but its expression was one of both rage and deep, unspeakable sorrow. This was not just a beast, it was a prisoner, a sentinel cursed to protect the citadel for eternity. Lyra's mind raced with questions. What had happened here? Why was this creature bound? And most importantly, what price would they pay to uncover the citadel's secrets? As they pressed deeper into the citadel, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, reacting to their presence. Lyra led the way, her lantern casting long shadows that danced across the worn stone floors. The corridors twisted and turned, creating a maze-like structure that disoriented even Kane, whose skills in navigation were unmatched. The citadel felt alive, and each step forward felt like a test of their resolve. Marik stayed close to Lyra, his sword drawn, ever watchful for dangers that lurked in the dark. Sable moved like a shadow, her fingers tracing the outlines of hidden mechanisms, traps that had claimed the lives of countless intruders before them. The tension was palpable, and every sound echoed ominously, hinting at the unseen dangers that lay ahead. They entered a grand hall, its ceiling lost in shadow and its walls lined with towering statues of warriors and scholars, each holding relics of unimaginable power. The floor was littered with broken weapons and skeletal remains, remnants of those who had sought the Citadel's treasures but found only death. Sable knelt beside an ornate chest, carefully examining it for traps before prying it open. Inside, she found a collection of ancient scrolls, each inscribed with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. "These are spells," she whispered, eyes wide with both excitement and fear. "Powerful ones by the looks of it." Kane studied the scrolls with a mix of awe and trepidation, recognizing the potential and the dangers they represented. But Lyra's focus remained on the Guardian's curse, sensing that these relics were merely distractions from the Citadel's true purpose. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the chamber, and the shadows seemed to shift as a massive, spectral figure emerged from the darkness, a phantom guard, bound to protect the secrets of the Citadel even in death. The creature lunged at them, wielding a ghostly blade that shimmered with arcane energy. Marik met its charge, his sword clashing against the ethereal weapon in a shower of sparks. Lyra and Sable joined the fray, their combined efforts barely holding the phantom at bay. The fight was brutal and relentless, with the spectral guardian seemingly invulnerable to their attacks. Lyra realized that the creature wasn't just a mindless monster. It was a remnant of the Citadel's past, a fallen warrior whose soul had been bound to its eternal duty. As the group fought for their lives, Lyra's resolve hardened. They had to break the cycle, to free the Citadel from its cursed guardianship, no matter the cost. The battle raged on, but with a strategic strike, Marik's blade finally found its mark, slicing through the phantom's form and dispersing it into a wisp of fading light. The victory was bittersweet. They had survived, but the Citadel seemed to retaliate, its walls rumbling as if in pain. Lyra glanced at her companions, each of them showing signs of wear and fatigue. "This place won't let us leave easily," she said, her voice edged with determination. They pressed on, entering a long corridor filled with flickering torches that led to a massive chamber. The walls were covered in frescoes depicting the Citadel's history, scenes of great triumphs, dark rituals, and the rise of the monstrous guardian that now bound the island's fate. Lyra's eyes locked onto a depiction of the guardian chained to its throne, surrounded by weeping figures. It was a tale of betrayal and punishment, a curse meant to protect but also to imprison. The chamber's centerpiece was a grand stone altar, adorned with an intricate design of glowing runes. Kane studied the symbols, his expression darkening. "This isn't just an altar, it's a binding circle," he explained. "This is where the Guardian was cursed, trapped in an endless cycle of duty." Lyra approached the altar, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on her. The runes pulsed like a heartbeat, resonating with the Guardian's pain and anger. It became clear. To break the curse, someone had to take the Guardian's place, willingly sacrificing their freedom for the Citadel's release. The realization hit her like a tidal wave, and she knew that their journey would not end with treasure, but with a choice that could change everything. The explorers stood before the grand altar, its glowing runes pulsating like a heartbeat, filling the chamber with an eerie rhythmic hum. Lyra's gaze was fixed on the altar's inscriptions, piecing together the tragic tale of the Guardian's imprisonment. The realization that the Guardian's curse was a twisted form of justice weighed heavily on her. Marik, Sable, and Kane watched as she traced her fingers over the runes, her expression darkening with each passing moment. "This place was never meant to protect the treasure," Lyra said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "It was meant to guard the world from what's inside, and the Guardian is as much a prisoner as a protector." The gravity of their situation settled over them like a shroud, and for the first time, the prospect of escape seemed as distant as the lightning-scorched sky above. As if sensing their intentions, the Citadel began to tremble, and the ground beneath them split, revealing a chasm filled with swirling dark energy. From the depths of the abyss, the monstrous Guardian emerged, no longer bound by its chains but still tethered to its cursed duty. It towered over the explorers, its form a grotesque blend of beast and man, with eyes that burned with centuries of rage and sorrow. The creature let out a deafening roar, shaking the very foundations of the Citadel. Marik raised his sword, ready to fight once more, but Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding. She understood now, this battle was not just about defeating the Guardian, but breaking the curse that bound it. "We can't kill it," she shouted over the chaos. "We have to free it, or this will never end." Lyra's words seemed to reach the Guardian, its gaze softening for the briefest of moments before it charged, its claws tearing through the air. Marik and Sable moved to intercept, their weapons clashing against the Guardian's powerful blows. Kane scrambled to the altar, desperately searching for a way to disrupt the binding spell. Lyra joined him, her mind racing as she deciphered the runes, realizing that the only way to free the Guardian was through sacrifice. Someone had to willingly take its place. She glanced at her companions, knowing that this was the choice she had to make. But before she could act, Marik stepped forward, his face set with grim determination. "I won't let you do this," he said quietly, his voice filled with a resolve that Lyra had never seen before. Marik thrust his sword into the altar's glowing circle, triggering a surge of energy that wrapped around him like a cocoon of light. The Guardian roared in pain as its chains began to dissolve, and for a moment its monstrous form flickered, revealing the face of a weary man, ancient and broken. Marik's body tensed as the magic transferred the curse from the Guardian to him, binding him to the Citadel's ancient throne. The room filled with a blinding light, and when it faded, Marik was seated on the throne, his eyes glowing with the same eerie light that had once filled the Guardian's. Lyra rushed forward, tears streaming down her face, but it was too late. Marik had made his choice, and the Citadel had claimed its new warden. The Guardian, now freed from its eternal torment, looked at Marik with a mix of gratitude and sorrow before fading into nothingness. The Citadel's walls stopped trembling, and the oppressive energy that had weighed on them since their arrival began to dissipate. Lyra, Sable, and Kane stood in stunned silence, grappling with the enormity of what had just occurred. Marik had sacrificed himself not out of duty, but out of love and loyalty to his friends, ensuring their safety at the cost of his own freedom. As the storm outside began to calm, Lyra knew that Marik's sacrifice would not be forgotten. The curse had been broken, but the Citadel's new guardian would remain, a testament to the price of breaking the cycle. The storm outside had quieted, but the air inside the Obsidian Citadel was heavy with the weight of Marik's sacrifice. Lyra, Sable, and Kane stood in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process what had just occurred. The Citadel, once a place of menace and danger, now felt like a somber tomb, a monument to the choices that had bound it for centuries. Marik's figure sat motionless on the ancient throne, his eyes glowing with the light of the Citadel's magic, now fused with his own spirit. The runes on the walls pulsed faintly, no longer hostile but sorrowful, as if mourning the loss of their former guardian and the arrival of a new one. Lyra stepped forward, her heart aching, knowing that Marik had saved them all but at the ultimate cost. Sable turned away, her usual sharp wit replaced by a rare and profound silence. She had seen many sacrifices in her life, but none as selfless as Marik's. Kane, still reeling from the intensity of the moment, moved to examine the altar, hoping to find some way to undo what had been done, but the runes were final, etched in magic older than any of them could comprehend. "There's no way back," he said softly, his voice echoing in the now quiet chamber. "The Citadel's curse is unbreakable once it's taken hold." Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed on Marik, who seemed both alive and apart from them, a guardian now bound to an eternal duty. The weight of his sacrifice hung heavy on her, a reminder of the fragile line between victory and loss. Lyra approached the throne, her hand reaching out but stopping just short of touching Marik. He looked at her with a faint, sad smile, one that spoke of acceptance and resolve. "Take the others and leave," he said, his voice resonating with a new, echoing timbre. "This place is mine now." Lyra wanted to argue, to find some way to save him, but deep down she knew Marik's decision was unchangeable. The Citadel demanded a guardian, and Marik had chosen to be that protector. Lyra stepped back, fighting the tears that blurred her vision, and nodded. She would honor his sacrifice, even if it meant leaving a part of her behind in this dark, ancient fortress. Together, Lyra, Sable, and Kane retraced their steps through the Citadel's twisting corridors, the weight of Marik's sacrifice pressing down on them. The traps that once threatened their lives were now inert, the Citadel's defenses seemingly acknowledging the new balance that had been struck. The relics they had sought no longer held the same allure. They were mere artifacts of a civilization that had demanded so much and given so little in return. As they reached the grand gate, Lyra glanced back one last time, her heart heavy with unspoken words. Marik was now a part of the Citadel's legacy, a warden who would guard its secrets for all time. They emerged onto the black sands of the island where the storm clouds had begun to part, revealing the faint glow of a setting sun on the horizon. The sea, once violent and unwelcoming, now lapped gently at the shore, as if acknowledging the change within the Citadel's walls. Lyra, Sable, and Kane boarded the Eclipse, their journey far from what they had expected, but filled with a new sense of purpose. As the ship set sail, Lyra looked back at the towering silhouette of the Obsidian Citadel, its dark spires reaching toward the sky. Marik's sacrifice would not be forgotten, and the Citadel, now at peace, would remain a testament to the power of choice, courage, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. The Eclipse sailed away from the island, its dark silhouette gradually fading against the horizon. As Lyra stood at the ship's stern, her gaze locked on the distant Obsidian Citadel. The sun had fully set, and the Citadel's black spires were now mere shadows against the crimson sky, a silent guardian over the cursed isle. The sea was calm, yet Lyra's heart was a storm of conflicting emotions: grief for Marik's sacrifice, anger at the Citadel's relentless demand for a warden, and a profound sense of duty to remember the cost of their journey. Sable leaned against the ship's railing beside her, her usual bravado replaced by quiet contemplation. "He saved us," Sable said softly, her voice barely audible over the gentle lapping of waves. Lyra nodded, knowing that Marik's legacy would live on in every breath they took beyond the island's shores. Kane sat at the ship's helm, navigating their way back through the calmer seas, but his thoughts were far from the task at hand. He glanced at the Citadel one last time, a monument to the choices that had defined their fate. For Kane, the relics and treasures they had discovered were no longer the prize. They were reminders of the true value of courage and friendship. As the island disappeared completely from view, Kane's resolve hardened. He would ensure that the stories of Marik's heroism and the Citadel's curse would be told, not as mere myths, but as warnings of the sacrifices that true guardianship demands. The world deserved to know what had been given to protect it, and Kane vowed to carry that truth forward. Below deck, Lyra carefully unrolled a map that Kane had charted, marking the location of the Obsidian Citadel. She traced the lines with her finger, knowing that it would never be a destination for fortune seekers, but a place of solemn remembrance. Lyra had ventured into the Citadel seeking treasure, but had found something far more profound, a lesson in the weight of choices and the strength of those willing to bear them. She folded the map gently, tucking it away not as a trophy but as a reminder of Marik's final stand. "Some stories are meant to stay lost," she whispered, her eyes filled with a bittersweet mix of sorrow and gratitude. She knew she could never truly leave Marik behind, but she would honor his sacrifice by moving forward. As night fell, the crew gathered on deck, sharing quiet reflections and silent toasts to Marik's memory. The air was cool, and the stars above shone brightly, unburdened by the storms that had once threatened their journey. Lyra looked up, finding comfort in the constellations that now seemed like watchful guardians in their own right. "To Marik," she said, raising her glass, "the best of us." Sable and Kane joined in, their glasses clinking in a quiet salute. The Citadel's curse had been broken, but its impact would forever shape their lives. Lyra knew they would never forget the guardian who had given everything to protect them, and in their hearts, Marik would always be the silent warden of a forgotten realm. As the ship sailed onward, Lyra felt a sense of closure, not just for the journey they had taken, but for the legacy they would carry forward. The Obsidian Citadel, once a place of terror and sorrow, was now a monument to courage, sacrifice, and the bonds forged in the darkest of times. Lyra glanced back one last time, her eyes tracing the line of the sea where the island had vanished. Marik's light would never fade, and neither would the lessons they had learned within those cursed walls. As the eclipse cut through the waves, Lyra knew that they were not leaving Marik behind. He was guiding them, watching over them and ensuring that their story and his would never be forgotten.